The only sound in the kitchen was the soft clatter of a spoon against a ceramic bowl, punctuated by the distant hum of the refrigerator. I watched Natalie as she absent-mindedly pushed granola around in her yogurt, her eyes half closed. She had always been a morning person, bright, cheerful, ready to take on the day. But lately, she was different, distant, a faded version of the woman I once knew. We had become little more than two strangers sharing the same space, passing each other like ships in the night. This morning, though, things would change. I swallowed the lump in my throat and pressed play on my phone. The tiny speaker crackled to life. The recording was brief, only a few seconds, but it was enough. I heard Natalie's breathing, slow and rhythmic in sleep, followed by a single whisper. Liam. Not my name, not a pet name, not a murmur of love or affection for me, just his name. Liam, her colleague, the one with the phony charm and the predatory gaze that always seemed to linger too long on my wife. The spoon in Natalie's hand stopped midair. Her eyes went wide, her face draining of color. She looked like a ghost suddenly summoned back from the beyond. A slight tremor began in her fingers before she quickly clasped them together, as if trying to hide her reaction. The silence between us stretched, thick and suffocating, broken only by the low drone of the fridge. Finally, she found her voice, a mere whisper, so different from her usual confident tone. W, what was that? I leaned back in my chair, my posture deliberately casual despite the storm raging inside me. I studied her, the woman I had loved, trusted, built a future with, now exposed as nothing more than a liar. Oh, that? I said, my voice eerily calm. That's you, last night, talking in your sleep. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. Or should I say, dreaming aloud? Her lips parted, but no words came out. She looked trapped, like a caged animal, her frantic gaze darting around as if searching for an escape. You recorded me? She finally choked out, her voice barely above a whisper. There was anger now, an attempt to deflect, to shift the blame. I nodded, a small, tight smile curling on my lips. I've been recording my sleep for weeks. I lied smoothly. Apparently, sleep talking can be very revealing. The truth was, I had only started 2 nights ago, after finding a string of suggestive messages on her work computer. Messages she had foolishly believed were safe in her deleted folder. It was a desperate move, a gamble, but it had paid off. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, her hand rising to her throat, a nervous habit I once found endearing. Now it only sickened me. Don't play dumb, Natalie, I said, my voice cold. We both know what that was. And we both know exactly who Liam is. At the mention of his name, she flinched. The small satisfaction I felt was bitter on my tongue. It's just a name, she whispered, her voice shaking. Is it? I asked, sarcasm dripping from my words. Just a name? One you whisper so tenderly in your sleep? One you never use when I'm next to you? I pushed back my chair, the sharp scrape of wood against tile cutting through the tense air. Standing, I walked to the counter and leaned against it, arms folded. I had this vision of our life, I said, my voice quieter now. A future we were building together. My eyes locked onto hers, unyielding. Turns out you were building something else entirely. Tears spilled down her face. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. But her apology was empty, hollow, a reflex designed to make me cave, to manipulate me into forgiving her. I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. Save it, I said, my tone devoid of emotion. The tears, the apologies, I'm done. I saw it register in her eyes then, the realization that this was different. This wasn't a fight she could win. I packed my bag while she pleaded, her voice desperate, her hands grabbing at me, trying to hold me back. I ignored her. I was numb, detached from the wreckage she had created. I left, the door slammed behind me, the finality of it ringing in my ears. The next week passed in a haze of fury and pain. I crashed on a friend's couch, barely eating, barely sleeping. The sound of her voice whispering his name haunted me. But beneath the heartbreak, Something colder took root, a quiet, unwavering resolve. I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to make them both pay. I started digging. Using my access as her husband, I went through her work computer again. I gathered everything, the emails, the chats, the evidence of their affair. The digital breadcrumbs of her betrayal piled up, forming an undeniable truth. Then I found Liam's social media, his carefully curated image of success, his luxury apartment, his expensive car, the little facade he built to impress women like my wife. Tuesday, that was the day I decided to act. I drove to his apartment, parking a few streets away. I waited. Then I saw her car pull in, watched her step out and walk to the entrance, Liam meeting her with that smug, self-satisfied grin. I waited until they were inside before making my move. Knocking on his door, I braced myself. When he opened it, confusion flickered across his face, quickly replaced by shock. What age? I didn't let him finish. My fist connected with his jaw in a single, satisfying crunch. He staggered back, hands flying to his face. Before he could recover, I grabbed him by the shirt and threw him onto the couch. You think you can just waltz into someone else's life and steal their wife? I roared, my voice shaking with rage. Natalie stood frozen in the doorway, eyes wide with terror. I ignored her. My focus was on him. I hauled him up, slamming him against the wall. He tried to fight back, but I was too far gone, too consumed by the betrayal that had shattered my world. I didn't stop until he lay crumpled on the floor, groaning, blood trickling from his nose. Then I turned to Natalie. I threw the stack of printed messages at her feet. "These are for you," I said, my voice cutting to the thick silence. "I've got copies for your office, for your parents, for everyone who ever thought they knew you." I tilted my head, studying the horror on her face. "You want to play this game in secret? Let's see how you like it in the open." She scrambled for the papers, hands shaking. Liam remained curled on the floor, whimpering. I walked out, leaving them to their mess. The only sound behind me were Natalie's sobs and Liam's pained breathing. I drove away the next morning, away from the city, away from the memories. I didn't know where I was going. All I knew was I wasn't looking back.